because we can always print money.
We also print actual currency, and we distribute that through the Federal Reserve Bank.
Now, maybe he's not worried because he's like, well, we'll just print the money. Who cares? Whatever money we lose, we'll just print it up.
You're about to see the financial system exposed by banking elites and insiders in these next few clips. And then afterwards, you're going to see that same system butchered, mincemeat, turned inside out by people of the likes of Peter Schiff, Robert Kiyosaki, and Elon Musk. And I fundamentally believe that the things that you and I will learn in these next few clips from these guys will radically change how you and I view money. And just so you know, sifting through all the right clips and gathering all them up took hours of my time to go through Twitter and YouTube and all these other places, so I hope you enjoy. This first clip is Alan Greenspan, and he was the chairman of the Federal Reserve until 2006, and I want you to pay close attention to the guy on his right and the face he makes when he lets the cat out of the bag.
Are U.S. Treasury bonds still safe to invest in?
Very much so. I think this is not an issue of credit rating. The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that. So there is zero probability.
Shut up, Alan. This next clip is Neil Kashkari. He's an American banker and president of the Fed in Minneapolis, and he's got those like intense, I'm not lying to you eyes.
To the person who is about to grab their car keys and go to the ATM and take out $3,000, you say what?
You don't need to. Your ATM is safe, your banks are safe, there's enough cash in the financial system, and there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. We will do whatever we need to do to make sure that there's enough cash in the banking system.
And now we've got Big Papa Jerome Powell himself, and he's just like, yep, yes.
Simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we, as a central bank, we have the ability to create money digitally, and we do that by buying treasury bills or bonds or other government guaranteed securities, and that actually increases the money supply. We also print actual currency, and we distribute that through the Federal Reserve Bank.
Piggybacking off of the comments and admission of Jerome Powell, Peter Schiff just goes in and really dissects on how banks operate and what happens when a bank does fail. What is the backstop, and what is the role of the Federal Reserve for these other banks, and what does that mean for you and me?
Another ridiculous comment that Powell made. Somebody asked him about these swap programs and what about the risk to the Fed? What happens if one of these banks fails or something? And Powell said, oh, there's no risk to the Fed at all. Well, why is that? Well, because Powell said it's all guaranteed by the FDIC, so nobody has to worry. Oh, it's all guaranteed by the FDIC? They only have $100 billion. You're talking about $18 trillion worth of deposits. The Fed's balance sheet grew by $300 billion in 1 week. The FDIC only has $100 billion. That's triple their entire reserve. God knows how much the balance sheet grew the following week. But to say that they don't have to worry, that the FDIC's got everybody covered? Who's got the FDIC covered? The FDIC is broke. Where is the FDIC going to get the money? From the U.S. government? No, the U.S. government is broke. They're running multi-trillion-dollar deficits. The only entity that could cover the losses at the FDIC is the Fed. So the Fed is going to have to bail out the FDIC. So if Powell says, hey, we're not worried about anything because the FDIC is insuring everything, who does he think is insuring the FDIC? The Fed. Is Powell this clueless that he doesn't even understand this dynamic? Now, maybe he's not worried because he's like, well, we'll just print the money. Who cares? Whatever money we lose, we'll just print it up. Yeah, that's inflation. That's the problem. He's saying he's committed to bringing inflation down to 2%, but then he's also basically committed to open-ended money printing because he's going to backstop the FDIC. He's going to backstop all the banks. You know, one of the reporters asked him, hey, what about all these small banks? Are all their deposits covered? Is the government going to bail out and protect every deposit, even the large ones above 250? And he wouldn't answer the question. He's afraid to answer the question. So what he said was, the banking system is sound. Nobody should worry about the banks. we have the tools to act and protect the depositors if their bank failure is going to harm the economy. So again, there's the if. Well, what if a small bank fails? Is that going to harm the economy? He was almost saying that any bank that fails, regardless of the size, is going to do some harm to the economy. And therefore, the Fed is going to need to bail that bank out and make all the depositors whole, because we can't allow any harm to the economy. But he didn't want to come right out and say that.
Now, when we're talking about the economy, we also have to talk about inflation, where it comes from, what happens, and what are its implications. And Elon Musk brings up a very important thought experiment for you and I to consider.
Like, what is money? You've got these sort of it's basically numbers in a database that sum up to some total. Then you've got the output of goods and services of the economy, and as long as the ratio of money to ratio of goods and services stays, if that stays constant, you have no inflation. If you add more money, if you add money to the system faster than you increase goods and services, right, then you have inflation. So all of these COVID sort of stimulus bills were not paid for. They just generated more currency, more money was created because the federal government, the checks always pass, unless you hit a debt limit, which there's probably going to be some debt limit crisis later this year. But provided you haven't hit the debt limit, the federal government, unlike state governments or city governments or individuals, can simply issue more money, and that's what they did. I mean, as the old saying goes, there's no free lunch. So if you could just issue massive amounts of money without negative consequences, why don't we just take that to the limit, make everyone a trillionaire? They tried that in Venezuela. How'd that work out?
Well, they had to eat zoo animals.
Right, it's not good.
Now, I'm not ready to eat no gorilla sandwich, all right? So, whatever Tucker said, that's not me. I'm too soft. My teeth are too brittle. But what happens when anyone can become a trillionaire just by printing money? What happens to the actual value of our currency, of our money here? Well, Robert Kiyosaki walks us through what exactly happens.
Do you know why they tell you to save money? Because the system of banking has nothing to do with communism or capitalism. It's the banks run the world. The rich run the world. They don't care if you're communist or capitalist. So let's say you save $1 US or €1, 1 yen. The banking system can lend out 10. So the entire system is called the fractional reserve system. The fractional reserve system is also printing money. And then they tell you to save money. So they want you to save money so they can lend out your money 10 times. So your dollar became worthless 10 times over. And then they used to pay you 10% interest on your money. Now it's at best 1%. And they're still lending it out 10 times. So that's why you don't save money, is because your money is becoming worth less and less and less and less and less. The banks are getting richer and richer and richer. Then they tax you on that interest they pay you. That 1% interest, if they pay you that much. Japan is 0. That's what I would question. So how come that happens? So when they lend out money, that's how money is created. Money is debt.
And if debt is the underlying problem to all these economic woes, well, Barry Sternlicht, a billionaire, has told us exactly what the solution is.
Bitcoin is the only economic entity where the supply is unaffected by the demand. So even with gold, if gold, which is $1,800 today, if gold goes to $18,000, there will be a lot more gold mined, because mines that are unprofitable will become profitable. And so gold, which accretes today, the production of gold is about equal to about 1.5% to 2% of the total value per year. That's the same accretion that Bitcoin has currently. But this year, 2022, I think will drop below 1.5% on that. So only 21 million Bitcoin can ever be created, or close to it. It doesn't matter if Bitcoin is 100,000 or 20 million, there's only going to be that many of them. So all you have to really believe is that the demand for Bitcoin will grow faster than 1.5%, over the next number of years, and the price inexorably will go up. So I've only recently been allowing myself to be described as a Bitcoin bull. I used to tell people, they say, "Oh, you're a Bitcoin bull, you own a lot of Bitcoin." I'm like, I do own a lot of it, but I'm actually a Bitcoin observer, and I'm observing its trajectory as a new technology and comparing it to the trajectories of things like the printing press, or the steam engine, or the railroads, or the automobile, or electricity, and it's following that very, not predictable, because it's not predictable certainly in the early days, a well understood path for the adoption of new technologies.
There's been evolution in technology in all areas of humanity, from communication to transportation, and now we have the evolution in money. Thanks so much for watching. Buy Bitcoin, and I'll see you in the next video.